tweets by Twitter support announcing a new policy banning linking to competing websites have been deleted. According to journalist Jed Legume, the policy itself was reportedly deleted from Twitter's website. This policy was in violation of European Union rules. According to the European Commission, gatekeeper platforms may no longer prevent consumers from linking up to businesses outside their platforms. The penalty can be a fine of up to 20% of the company's annual revenue.
The Washington Post's Taylor Lorenz was briefly suspended yesterday after she apparently violated the now defunct policy, and her account has since been reinstated. Associate editor at Reason Magazine, Liz Wolfe, joins us now to weigh in. So great to have you, Liz.
Thanks for having me.
So what was your reaction to seeing Taylor Lorenz banned from Twitter and, this whole brouhaha that unfolded over the weekend?
My reaction is that I have a new board, and so I'm not particularly interested in what Taylor Lorenz is or is not doing on Twitter these days. It all seems a little trivial to me. No, I mean, there's long been all kinds of petty behavior from the likes of Lorenz and the likes of Elon Musk on Twitter. I do think it's kind of interesting seeing so many people who very clearly have an axe to grind with Musk being concerned about this, when in reality, if the EU could possibly be fining him, that seems to be good for the Musk haters, right? Like, go ahead and hit him where it hurts. But I do think it's worth noting that Twitter is a private company and can do whatever it wants. Musk needs to forge a path to profitability to ensure that this isn't just a money-losing vanity proposition for himself. And I don't think that this will get him there. But if he wants to do this, he is fully within his rights to do so.
Liz, what conditionally is being lost a lot in the conversation about the initial ban of talking about or including links to other social media sites within your Twitter post is that the argument wasn't ever that he just wanted that to stop. It was that it would no longer be free use. So to your point, there is something that he's trying to do. There's profiteering here, and that's all Elon Musk is day and night. And recognizing that Twitter has lost a lot of advertisers, they're kind of in the hole, that the valuation is a lot lower than what he actually paid for it. What do you think is going to be the next step? Because it seems like at this point he's been making willy-nilly policy decisions based off of his own Twitter fights. Where do you think this is going?
Well, I'm kind of a free speech absolutist. So when I first heard the news that Musk was buying Twitter, I wondered whether this could be taking it in the right direction. I have mixed feelings about Twitter under Dorsey's leadership, but I think Dorsey did a good job in that he admitted that Twitter censors made the wrong decision with censoring the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop story. And I think some of the Twitter files, the revelations that have come forward from Matt Taibbi and from Barry Weiss in the last few weeks have been really valuable in terms of opening the kimono, to use kind of a weird expression, and helping us understand some of the behind-the-scenes decisions related to content moderation. I do think the main takeaway, though, which might surprise you from the libertarian perspective, though, is that I'm a little pissed that Elon Musk is spending a lot of time on all of this. I think he's really trying to be the main character, so to speak, on Twitter every single day. And look, this is a man who's interested in terraforming planets. He's interested in going to Mars. He's one of the people popularizing and making it so that electric vehicles are much more affordable and much more hotly desired in the United States. He has the Boring Company's attempt to tunnel under cities to try to relieve their congestion problems. I mean, he's a really impressive innovator in a whole bunch of other fields, and I have a lot of respect for what he's done. I think he could use his very, very big brain to focus on those types of things. But the fact that he, for whatever reason, is tweeting about wokeness and suspending Taylor Lorenz and all these things on Twitter, I just sort of wonder, will this be the thing that advances humanity, or is this kind of something that's keeping us mired in extremely petty and trivial fights?
It's definitely the thing that's advancing his investors to move away from their investments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point, Amisha. Where are you on that, Liz? I mean, from a certain point of view, we discussed this earlier, there is a tension between being a free speech absolutist and running a business that can turn a profit, right? Because, whatever the First Amendment may say about swastikas, it's very clear, it's protected speech, right? Advertisers do not want their products to appear next to swastikas on a platform. Isn't there... do you agree that there is a fundamental tension there between running a business in which people speak and, profitable business, and the sort of absolutism of free speech that's guaranteed by the First Amendment? If so, which direction should Musk be erring on? on when making these tough calls?
Well, I think the advertisers of Yeezys, for example, are totally fine with their product appearing next to swastikas, unfortunately. No, I do think that it's important whenever we talk about these things to separate the legally binding First Amendment as it pertains to government treatment of speech versus fostering a culture of speech, which I think is what people, users of Twitter, are talking about when they talk about social media content moderation, especially as it pertains to how these companies should make decisions during elections. We're not actually technically talking about the First Amendment, but we are talking about this more informal culture of speech, this idea that the people who run these platforms really do control a significant portion of what people are exposed to and what types of things they can express, and that these information flows really do matter, and that we ought to be, there's a lot of tension between whether we ought to be maximalists in that or whether they ought to exercise their powers and to take a really heavy hand with restricting that information. I do think that Musk he seemed to come into this with free speech maximalist principles, but it's hard to tell whether he is actually committed to those because of the degree to which he's almost acting like a strongman, where things that curry favor with him, he's very comfortable with having them run rampant on Twitter, but there's this ego tied up in it, which leaves my hackles raised from a principled free speecher perspective. So I'm very concerned about that. I think we even saw a little bit of that kerfuffle with Barry Weiss and Musk over the weekend, if I recall correctly. So I think that is something that very much could leave investors highly concerned. He's a little bit unreliable and unpredictable.
Unpredictable is the perfect term here because we've seen it time and time again with Elon Musk. I do agree with you, Liz. At the end of the day, when it came to his private sector work, the work that he has done in building up Tesla, the work that he has done in space, which some people wish he would go there and stay at this point, has been quite remarkable. And a lot of that is being diminished/eradicated because of the way that he is responding, creating action, and quite frankly, having these very erratic and offsides tweets on a regular basis.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really sad thinking about what Twitter could be versus what Musk attempts to be warping it into. And there's also fundamentally this question of how much staying power does it have if there is this level of unpredictability. It's hard for me to see. When Musk first announced that he was taking it over, I had lofty free speecher hopes. And I was very curious as to whether Musk, a historically quite successful businessman, would be able to forge a path to profitability. I have become increasingly worried about both of those prospects. And I think for the Musk haters, of which there are many, that must be very exciting to watch. But it's a little frustrating to me that we're all working ourselves into a tizzy over this when inflation is still hurting people's bottom line, when we still have war in Ukraine, when we still are gearing up for an election. It really does seem like we're sometimes so interested in focusing on the least significant things. And I think Musk himself is very guilty of that. He could be beaming internet into Ukraine to help people have access to information. He could be beaming internet into Russia to ensure that citizens there are not just only exposed to Putin's propaganda. Musk doesn't seem to be focused on those activities and is instead focused on pissing off Taylor Lorenz.
Yeah, I mean, it is really heartbreaking because I really do feel for the conservative point of view and also people on the left. I mean, under the old regime, the censorship was so weighted in one direction that I never really knew if I was getting an accurate sense of the right point of view because I knew how extreme the censorship had been. But now it seems almost like we're headed in the other direction. It's not just he only banned 10 journalist accounts, but so many leftists are fleeing the site. And in a way, yes, it's bad when the company censors, but the thing that's lost is that vigorous debate that you want so you can check yourself and know if your argument is good or if it's just that you've never heard the other side, right? And in a way, isn't Musk, in just disgusting leftists into leaving, creating a homogenous Twitter, kind of an echo chamber for himself, not by banning, but through his erratic leadership.
Well, Batya, both of us are huge believers in this. Iron sharpens iron. There is nothing more valuable to me when working through policy arguments than hearing the perspective of somebody like you, or even like leftists who do legitimately believe in cancel culture type stuff. Because you and I are similar on some things. We have a lot of areas of overlap and agreement. But like, it's extremely important when you're attempting to craft policy arguments or understand the ins and outs of a specific political issue to be engaging with the best possible opposite argument. And for whatever reason, people seem to be intimidated by that. They seem to be frustrated by that. They seem to shy away from that. And what a horribly unhealthy thing for our discourse. And what a horribly unhealthy thing that so many journalists seem to be wired that way as well. There's this incuriousness that I frankly find pretty sickening, because it's our job as journalists, it's our job as people in the media to be curious about what's going on and why, to not necessarily come into a specific situation with a gazillion preconceived notions, to not try to be rigidly dogmatic about things per se, but to be clear about how we're approaching things, what our biases are, and to ask healthy questions of the other side, and to interrogate the areas where we might be incorrect, because we're all incorrect at some point or another. The fact that so few people are interested in this, the fact that Musk isn't fostering an environment that will do that, makes me very, very, very concerned. And we have to somehow fix this. I'm very appreciative to shows like Rising and To the Hill for being an environment where we can do that. We need more forums like that, not fewer.
Thanks for joining us, Liz, and more Rising after this.